I call to order this special city council meeting at 7:14 p.m., August 14th, 2023. Purpose of this meeting is, all members of the city council are present. They are in the chambers. Purpose of this meeting is to hold a public hearing on the fiscal year 2023-2024 proposed budget and act on setting the adoption of the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget for August 21st, 2023 at a regular city council meeting. Presentation, there is not a presentation as such. And wait a minute, there is, excuse me, part of my technical difficulty. During this presentation, I would like to, if you want to go over to slideshow, there you go. You know how to drive. Give us just a very high level, a highlight of our budget, mentioning balance in the general fund, public works. We might overview the tax rate increase that's one, the no new revenue rate, the adjustment between the audit at Tarrant County and the actual, and the new tax revenue rate requested.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Marcy Lamb, Finance Director. For the 23-24 proposed Hazlet budget, the council has set a proposed tax rate of 0.342638 per $100 of assessed valuation, and that is an M&O portion of 0.297294 and a debt service portion of 0.045344 to make up both components of that tax rate. The proposed budget tax rate of the 0.342638 is proposed at a level that is 7.99% increase over the no new revenue M&O rate. The no new revenue M&O rate is a rate that, based on the final determined value by the taxing entities, both Denton County and Tarrant County approval districts, they take the rate that we started with last year and they add in the different pieces of property that have been protested or disputed, settled, possibly still in judgment. And after everything falls out at the end of the year, they give us a new valuation for last year. So had we had the valuation that they determined now that was for 2022, it is somewhat different. So the no new revenue rate overall is the rate that, should we adopt that rate, there would be no new dollars. In other words, the amount of levy, which is your valuation times your tax rate, would be the same as it was in 2022. The way the tax rate is calculated for the no new revenue rate, it uses the revised value for 2022, and with all of the things, as I mentioned, coming through, and uses that value, and that's the value that they use to calculate our M&O piece of the tax rate, the no new revenue tax rate. Under the law, you're allowed to use that no new revenue tax rate. You can use variations of it depending on what size of city you are. We are a city under 30,000 population, so we're allowed to go up to either the special unit taxing rate, that's an 8% increase over the M&O, or the de minimis rate. We would go over the de minimis rate, it would cause us to have an election. We're not doing that, and we're not going over the taxing rate that's at a special taxing unit rate that's 8%. We're setting our tax rate right below that at 7.99% over the no new revenue M&O tax rate for last year. One of the things that the taxing districts do when they're calculating that valuation, as I said, they get us started at a 2022 valuation as it would have been had everything been settled at that time. Then they add in the new valuations on existing properties in 2022. If those valuations have gone up and down, they factor those in. And then they add in any new construction that we've had, which, as you all know, we've had a substantial amount of new construction. So then they use that new valuation to calculate our voter approval tax rate, which is a 3.5% increase over the no new revenue M&O rate, and then the special unit taxing rate, which, as I mentioned, is 8%. So at your meeting last week, you approved a proposed tax rate. That tax rate you will be voting on at your meeting next week on the 21st, as you will hopefully tonight set the time for you to adopt your budget at next week's meeting also. So tonight what you have scheduled is the public hearing on the budget. That can include discussions of the tax rate, any items in the budget, or any items that the public wants to discuss with you, or anything that you might have thought of since you've met, any other questions that you may have. So the public hearing for the tax rate, we have a required communication that we have to put out, and I will read that if I can find it here. So we did give notice for the public hearing, and the proposed budget is going to raise more revenue from property taxes than last year's budget by an amount of $1,034,624, which is a 26.6% increase from last year's budget. The property tax revenue to be raised from new property added to the tax roll this year is $554,435. The mayor and council did hold their budget workshops earlier on August 4th and 5th and discuss the contents of the revenue requirements for the budget. One of the things that I did point out, there's a lot of legalese involved in publishing and providing notice to the public, and so I just wanted to kind of go over some of the tax rates.
Before you do that, before we leave this page, go back to that page you were just showing.
Mm-hmm.
Marcy, I'd like for you to point out, okay, oh my gosh, we're increasing by $1 million. Explain how that happened.
Okay.
Because that 7.99% request increase doesn't generate that.
That's correct. The let's see if I can find my piece of paper. Here it is. The total revenue line, as in this notice, the over $1 million that's new money, that is split between the general fund and our debt service fund, or interest and sinking fund rate. As I mentioned before, there's two pieces to the tax rate. So the $1,034,000, not all of that's going in the general fund. Some of it is going to retire your debt. But once the Denton County and Tarrant County approval districts came up with that new revised 2022 taxing amount, then and adding the new construction plus the rate that we have decided to propose, that will generate those additional dollars in the budget. once again, a large piece of that, 554,000, is coming from the new construction dollars. Part of it's coming from increase in the debt portion of the tax rate. And then the other piece is coming from the 7.99% above the M&O rate that you adopted for the general fund.
I want to pause right here. So, council, you've seen presentations in the past where I showed here is the what was called the takedown schedule. How many homes do builders anticipate they will build per quarter per year? About, starting three years ago, 2 and 3 years ago, there was a huge surge in home construction. Well, the interesting thing about ad valorem, once they get that house built, it lagged about 2 years before it hit our rolls, and that we realized revenue for it. And this $1 million, that is a big part of that, is these new homes that were built in the past. Is that correct, Marcy?
Yes.
All right, so it lags 2 years, you say?
Approximately 2 years, yes.
Depending on when they were completed and when they actually went on the tax roll. They may not go on the tax roll in the year in which they're completed because that taxing for the year may have already passed.
Because I thought after construction and people move in, then it would be for the following year. So, for example, if they build it in January, then they would have a full year with the previous year's tax valuation. So that's it lags 2 years?
Well, some of them may be done right at the end of the year and then go right on in January. Some of them may not go on. So yes, there can be up to a 2-year lag by the time they get on.
So the average in our calculations, the average is 2 years. It'd be very aggressive and counting more revenue that we would probably realize if we took it right away to apply to our budget anyway. Any questions on that? Okay, very good. Also, the property tax revenue to be raised from new property added to this tax roll. Again, well, there it is, that last sentence. The new property taxes, $554,000, half of what you see in that $1 million. The 7.99, according to our schedule, that 7.99% increase on M&O only generates, according to the schedules that I've seen, is $316,000 nominal. There's some $316,000 in dollars.
Over the no new revenue M&O rate, yes.
Over the no new revenue rate, yes. Okay, please continue. I just wanted to clarify those numbers, right?
Okay. The items that you have left, as I mentioned earlier, to do is tonight the budget public hearing, and then next week you'll have a hearing on the tax rate, and then you also vote on the final tax rate, and you will have amendments to the current year budget, most of which you have already seen or acted on during the year, and then you will adopt the budget for 23-24. As I mentioned earlier, there's several different notices to the public that we give. The notice and motion for the tax rate that you'll be asked to give will reference the 7.99% for increase in maintenance operations. And the language in that also includes that will raise taxes for the maintenance and operations on a $100,000 home by approximately $24.61. I don't know if there's anything else you want me to go over.
Any questions from Marcy? And I got a small presentation quickly to go through, but I just wanted Marcy give us on the numbers, just an overview. Any questions? All right. If you go to that presentation that I gave you. Okay. Next slide, please. And can you fit the screen with the presentation? It doesn't fit the screen. Thank you. Zoom it down a little bit. Is that it? No, I don't zoom up, zoom down, so the whole slide fits. That's it right there? Oh, okay. Well, besides pass-through traffic in Haslett, Texas, what we see for the demand of services from many aspects, whether it be water lines or sewer lines, new employees, new vehicles for employees, increased fire and medical services, anything that drives, is the new residential developments that we realized really starting in probably 2016, 2017, when they were approved, and development, well, actually approved prior to that, many of them, but construction started in earnest. And as a home is built, there's on an average another 4 folks in our city. Beginning in that time, our population around 2016 was, I'll say, a nominal 1,500 or so. Council, that's approximate. Today, we have, of all the subdivisions, we have approximately 51 to 52% completed. All new subdivisions that were approved over the last 7-8 years represented another 2,005 homes in Haslett, single-family dwelling, residential units. That we are about 51% complete in the build-out. Presently, over that 7 years, we are at a population of approximately 4,500. So we've increased by about 3,000 folks in 7 years' time. That's a pretty healthy increase. I was looking at some data, and it's all online. You look at different cities, but Haslett is last year experienced a 31.5% growth increase. But it's pretty amazing. Yes, I do think Haslett's special and everybody wants to be here. I guess that's why. But nonetheless, residential development is a primary driver that we're experiencing in many aspects. The next slide. Here is what is called the takedown schedule, and I mentioned to you previously about that, $500,000 increase in revenue that we see, or the 1 million plus 1,034,000 and something, and then over $500,000 of that's due to new construction. So if you look on the far left about the 21, 22, you see this huge spike, and that one fiscal year, we issued almost 400 new permits for home construction. The following year, about 225. And then here in 2023, and what you see, this dip, that was a programmed slowdown in these developers' schedule across the board. They have this down to a science. This is the sum total of their takedown schedules that I acquired approximately 2 years ago. And it has not changed. We track these permits in real time. And I'll tell you, last year I applied in developing the budget when the inflation talk started, I modified the program and to able to implement a turn down. I implemented a 55% turn down. And to our surprise, at the end of here just a month ago, 2 months ago, verifying all the actual permits issued, every one of them were within 1 or 2 homes of what they had predicted years ago, 17, or prior to their construction start in 2017, 2018. It's amazing. These people know what they're doing. So this going forward, I applied no turn down, none at all. And that's what you see in the fiscal year beginning this, where we're in the Q4 fiscal year 22-23. That right here, closing that out. October the 1st is right here. It's the start of that time. And what you see in front of you in this schedule is the developer's schedule in their construction. And as you'll see in 26, 27, Q3, at the very end of the chart, is when the last home will be built. Next slide, please. Here again, it's just a cumulative total for a number of total housing units. Again, it was 2005 additional housing units. And here we are in Q1, coming up into Q1 23-24, right here. So we're a little over halfway, but it'll finish out quickly in the next few years. Next slide. There was discussion about tax rates and M&O and things that we have done in the past. Let me go to the next slide, please. Here is historical slide starting in really 2007, 2008. And this third from the left column here is M&O, and that's the percent increase or decrease from one year to the next. As you can see, it's been up and down, up and down. It's kind of, and I'll tell you, for any city, most every city has, at best, the tools that they have available is to look at next year. What do I need next year? It's a reactionary type thing. And I need a new road, or I need new water lines, I need, etc. And they look at next year to establish their budget, their maintenance and operation. What is maintenance and operation? Well, it might be replacing air conditioning units. It could be repairing a foundation in a building that we own, replacing a roof, buying a new truck that's worn out. So any maintenance item that you can conceive of, or repairing a water line that we know about, or a sewer line, or a road, or various road, patches. That's maintenance. Operational cost, well, that's our utilities. A big driver is our employees' wages. That's a huge driver, as in any operation. But M&O is the same for any corporation, any business entity. And these are the various changes from year to year that we see. What we'd like to do is try to stabilize this somewhat. At the very top, you see that 9%, and that's because the 0.272682 in the 22-23, that is not the adjusted actual or rate provided by Tarrant County. So if we had used their adjusted rate, we would have seen, which that adjusted rate is 0.275298, and though we're looking at 6 significant digits, those digits make a big difference in that percentage number that you see. It's 9 in lieu of 7.99. So the value we see in the 22-23 M&O was the uncorrected M&O value that we used at the very beginning of 22-23. Nonetheless, so the M&O, INS, what is INS? Marcy covered that. That's our debt piece. We borrow money, we got to pay it back. And that's what it is. And on these, the debt instruments, they're called certificates of obligation. They are a bond. It's a type of bond that the legislature passed that you don't have to go to an election for. The reason is there are very strict criteria under which you can do a governing body can issue a certificate of obligation, and those are for items that they envision you have to have. You can't wait 6 months or 9 months to go to an election to upsize a sewer line or repair or a water line, those type of things. And that's why I don't know, it might have been 15 years ago or more, probably more, they made a legislative change and instituted certificate of obligation for that one reason. So the rest of the columns, you'll see it's a rate per, now the 34, 26, 38 is the sum of M&O and INS. This change from year to year, that, as you can see in prior years, is up and down, but that percent change incorporates a big driver is that INS piece, which we're not asking for a rate increase on that, only on the M&O. Anyway, next slide. I bring all that up, and why am I proposing a 7.99% rate increase on M&O? I will tell you all is that I am the last person that wants to pay any more taxes. I'll tell you that. I don't want to. I remember years ago, someone asked me, because I was your mayor, 20 years ago or more, what are the 2 biggest lessons that you've learned out of being a mayor? And I said, and I didn't hesitate, because I had thought about it prior to being asked, is the right thing to do is often the most unpopular thing to do. And the right thing to do is often the hardest thing to do. And you'll find that true in many aspects. As budget officer, I have to look at what we need. And everything we're doing is based on needs and not wants. There's no new slip and slide or water park or anything like that in here at all. It's addressing fundamentals. So that is my job. I have to look at what's coming, what I know is coming. And what I know is coming, as an example, this is a asset list of the Haslett Fire Department program, the replacement of their equipment. And this goes out to fiscal year 41, but just bringing it a little closer to home, say 28, 29, the sum of those totals there, actually 29, 30, is $1.2 million. That's just the sum of the bottom line. The first 1, 2, 4, 6 lines is 1.2. The total of that entire line is $5.8 million. Now, we got several choices. This is coming. I know it's coming. It's going to happen. We have to replace these vehicles. Public Works is in the same fashion. We have bought many new pieces in just the last 2 years, well over $1 million worth. And that will be probably replaced. We plan for it in the next 10 years. I haven't got that breakdown schedule here, but I'm just using the fire department as an example. So I can look at that and wait till next year and go, well, I need to put that in the budget, that $170,000. And then I know in 2 years I'll deal with it then. There's another $600,000, and so on and so forth. Or I can look ahead now. What can we do to help stabilize things and not have to go borrow money? Now, you see 2 items in blue at the very bottom, $2 million and $1.25 million. Those are most likely, probably nearly guaranteed, will be a certificate of obligation to buy those 2 pieces. But the remainder of it, we can look ahead and build a reserve and pay for this and cash flow it. While we're building that, we are also earning interest. What's the day's rate? About 4% that we earn. A little over 5. So we can earn some interest instead of pay it back in a loan. So that's why I'm asking for a 7.99% increase, because that generates an extra $316,000 we can earn. And these are known. Believe me, there are many costs that are coming that we don't know of right now. So if we go on the next slide. Here, just as using the fire department as an example, the very top line is our population growth. You got that line. The smaller line right here is what they in statistics called a 2-point moving average calculation. And the brown line is the fire and EMS calls annually since 2012. And you can see as the population began to increase, so did the fire and EMS calls. It makes sense. And further, I didn't show it here, but for every 2.4 people, it adds another call. So as the previous slide showed this programmed replacement, well, that's based on years of service. What's not based on there, and Kurt may as well correct me if I'm wrong, did we incorporate all the additional mileage and the wear and tear on the all increased number of responses we're going to make? By the end of 2024, we are increasing we're up to easily 2,000 calls. And here beginning in 2023, we're closing out probably about 15. So we'll increase by another 500 calls easily. So that's one of the reasons right there, is that just the increased wear and tear. Also, in taking the aspect of Public Works equipment, we bought a large number of equipment we've replaced so they can do their job. It increased their productivity by over 100% because they were using equipment that was 12 and 15 years old. They spent more time repairing it. Nonetheless, we have, just as an example of added public work wear and tear on equipment. We had the L just opened up. That's a portion of Haslett Parkway and Intermodal. In there, we have a median. Right now, you see a bunch of Johnson grass and sunflowers that will be replaced by grass. But nonetheless, it has to be mowed. Just that portion from I-35 to the intersection of Intermodal and Haslett Parkway, and from Haslett Park or from Intermodal up to where it connected to, which is at Transport Drive. That median is a total of 11 acres. 11 acres. And that's not easy area to mow. Popping those curbs will make wear and tear on those zero-turn mowers. Now, those zero-turn mowers are built like a tank, but they don't have tank treads. They have tires. So, but I just realized the wear and tear, the increased workload, and we're getting increased number of employees as well, that we have to anticipate, and because I know it's coming. Anybody that's been in business where you have wear and tear on equipment, you know it's coming, and every business tries to program the replacement so they're not surprised from one year to the next. That's the foundation of why I'm asking for the extra $316,000 a year, which is 7.99% increase on the maintenance and operation aspect of this budget. Next slide. That's just some, you've seen this before, council. Our fund balance, $9,812,000. Operating revenues, $8,152,000. For those in the audience and also online, this information will be all available online. I'll post that presentation for online viewing. And it may be out there already. I don't recall. Nonetheless, I will confirm tomorrow. Next slide. This will have a total available resources, almost $18 million. And operating expenditures are $7.5 million for this 23-24 budget. Next slide. Infrastructure and services. We are doing many projects this year that will be completed in the ground. It'll be put in the ground, or you see, such as Public Works, new 4-acre yard and office building coming out. It'll be out of the ground this year. We have a total of $17.1 million that in the certificate of obligation, and much of that will be expended this year. Next slide. Traffic mitigation, you see right now, part of last year's budget, this 23-24 that we're closing out, is at work with regard to going throughout the city, and a big focused effort at the Haslett Elementary, but throughout the city, is road striping, new signage, and efforts to make people aware, particularly those passing through, that people do live here. Please respect that, and what we can do to bring safety to our residents and our school children. Traffic mitigation phase 2, you'll realize that project in this coming year, 23-24, and that's all has to do with FM 156. There was a speed study done, traffic study rather, and you probably saw that tubes laid on FM 156 6 months ago, and they were doing traffic counts all through up and down 156, and an assessment with regard to that. Next slide. Ashmore Farms, street repairs, that's happening here beginning in August, I believe it is. I don't see James. It's August. It'll be finished up before November, though, as I am told. And that completely rehabs the Ashmore Farm Street. Next slide. Next slide. Here is the Public Works facility that'll be coming out of the ground this year. This next slide. This is the fire department expansion. You'll see coming out of the ground this coming year. The expansion is on the north end. Right here. That building. This is existing. It's an additional 4,800 square feet. And we have last year we went to a full-time paid fire department. That one move. And also the execution at when I say we, it's this council up here that heard the ask for it, and we explained, and they approved it. But that one move, going to a full-time paid fire department and executing an agreement with the city of Fort Worth, what brought that full-time fire department designation and the capability to invoke a Fort Worth mutual aid agreement with the city of Fort Worth. It gave us access to all their surrounding fire departments, which there are 4 in the immediate area. Saved this city millions in dollars, both in building fire departments, which we now don't need, and hiring multiple full-time staff for each fire department. So that was a great move, but we're hiring 3 more this year in this budget, so if it is approved. And so it'll give us backup. People go on vacation. Firemen go on vacation. Firemen get sick. So we want that small bench to accentuate those personnel. Next slide. Again, throughout Haslett, there will be major water system improvements. Next slide. Likewise, sewer improvements. Next slide. Street improvements. Next slide. That was something that was born out of last year's budget that I presented to the council to keep us out of the red in M&O. That's why, looking at all these needs, all driven, if you saw that slide in the beginning, our last house is built in 27, 28. Well, when the population grows, we got a very good, got a pretty good database that the equipment needs and the hiring needs of a city are driven by the number of residents that you have, and that's what this model, to keep us out of the red at any year, that's what these estimated year-over-year increases were all about. And it seems to be holding, at least here on the front end of it, seems to be holding true now. So that concludes my presentation. Are there any other questions on that presentation? All right then. I would like to open the public hearing. It is 7:56 p.m. Open the public hearing on this matter of the 2023-2024 proposed budget. Does anyone in the chambers have any comment? Please. Yes, this is your time. Please state your name and your address.
Hello. Hello, is that better? Okay. Do I need to do that again? Okay. Micah Malone, 13932 Bates Aston Road. Okay. Our kids go to Northwest ISD, whether Haslett likes it or not. We're dead center of the district. We are the most growing district in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. My children play baseball at HSA. We were told that the city is taking over, as you said, in October 1st. Is that what you said? I don't know if I was looking at the right budget, but I would like to know what the budget is when you take that over, because you said that we would be renting it from the city.
Oh, the line item in the budget, do you have that handy, Marcy?
I have it. I just want to make sure we have the numbers right.
And any other comment? Right now is to make your comment. We
Okay.
generally don't give answers right here in
Okay.
a public
Well,
hearing.
I'll just talk then. I see it right here. And every repair and maintenance is already what we have now. And as of now, we have 288 kids this season, and the next season it doubles. Like, our volunteers are working their tail off to get these kids involved, and these kids that wears the jersey represents Haslett. So as of now, our grandparents can't even come watch the fields because they have to walk down a dirt hole to get to the field. We have no bathrooms. And your proposal basically is 15,000, and it's basically everything that we already have. So what I'm saying as a citizen, I wouldn't want to rent you're giving us nothing rentable. I mean, there's so many other communities that have better facilities and stuff, and it makes me sad because I love Haslett. I want our kids to stay here. This is your time to promote these children to play baseball, and we have nothing to look forward to because there was nothing extra to make it where we want to stay.
I understand. Any comments on anything, other aspect of the budget?
I would just love to see the budget outlining on why, whenever October 1st comes down, what will be the rent rate or for us to rent the fields, and what do y'all suggest in the future to make that where it's rentable?
Understood. Any other comments that you have on the budget?
Nope.
Very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anybody else that has a comment on the budget or would like to address the
First of all, I apologize for my casual dress. I thought it was going to be 107, but it was only 99, so I could have dressed a little better. But my name is Joette Keene, 1410 Poppy Drive, and you know, I've listened to a lot of discussion over the last 2 years about what's going on in the city and the needs and the growth and all the things that are happening. You know, this isn't the same city. You saw the population growth. It's not the same city that was here in 2000. Can't run a city on a wing and a prayer. You have to look ahead. You have to budget for things, and you have to be responsible. When you approve growth that was approved, that we saw exploding in 2016, you need to be responsible and plan ahead for the infrastructure, for the personnel, and for all the things that are required. And I am happy to see that over the last 2 years, those things have been addressed that needed to be addressed. The equipment, you can't hire people and expect them to not have a good salary, not have decent equipment to work with. You're not going to get your people to come here to this city if it looks junky and not well maintained. So everything that we put in our budgets that you're going to hopefully approve is what attracts people to come here. They have good services. They have a clean and decent looking community. They have all of the infrastructure that's actually required. So when they turn on their faucet, they have water pressure. When they flush their toilet, it actually goes down the sewer lines. I was here when I was on the meeting when all the high density housing was being discussed. It was approved. The major concern that people had on those conversations was about the infrastructure that was going to support that. And here we are today. You need to pass a budget, City Council, that takes that into account. And that's why I really hope that you don't think that we can run this city on a wing and a prayer, because that doesn't work. We need to have the right look ahead. We need to have the right tools to do that. And I think when you had your budget meeting, I'm sure you saw that you had tools that allowed you to focus on the tax money that was coming in, the expenses that were projected, the projected growth, and what that implied. And I hope that you do your job and approve the budget so that we can have a city that people want to come to and that represents what we all believe Hazlet can be. So please do approve this budget for the coming fiscal year. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the chamber who would like to speak to this issue, to the budget? Is there anyone online made a request to speak? There is no others in the chamber, and there are none online wishing to speak, so I close the public hearing. It appears to be 8:04 p.m. Is that correct? Does that look like I'm looking at the 8:02? Very good. All right. Council, discuss, consider, and act. Item 3.
Mayor Halsey,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2023-2024 proposed budget and set the adoption of the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget for August 21st, 2023 regular city council meeting.
And let me ask, Marcy, does suffice the motion that was made? That
Yes,
you need?
are you actually making a motion to approve the budget or to set the date for adoption?
Both.
Well, I
She
said
did both.
Propose.
Okay.
The proposed budget.
That's sufficient.
Okay, motion is made to accept the 2023-2024 proposed budget and set the adoption of the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget for August 21st, 2023. Is there a second?
Mayor Halsey, I second.
There is a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mayor Halsey. I just want to reiterate that although I have voiced that I'm not in favor of a property tax for our citizens, I do think the majority of our budget is very good. And I can't.
Thank you.
No, as Joette pointed out, we did have a very good budget workshop for a day and a half. A lot of good information exchanged in that meeting. My only concern is when we start looking at, the needs of the town, which were pretty well addressed in those budget workshops, versus the wants, I think, that were also presented. I think that's what cities and the leaders of that community have to look at, is the needs and the wants. And that's why, I'm in favor of the budget, but I can't support the tax increase at 7.99% at this time.
Well, that's interesting. Let me ask, what wants do you see that are in the budget?
What I can see is it looked like more of the public works equipment and transportation.
Well, there were 2 trucks and a lawnmower requested.
Okay.
Very specifically. And I know you had exception
And I
to-
mentioned that to you before also, so you got that information.
to a 3/4 ton pickup versus a 1/2 ton pickup.
I didn't say half-ton pickup. I just said we need to look at the needs and the wants.
Okay, well,
If-
I didn't want people in general, because they're listening online,
No, that's fine.
to what is a need, what were the wants. So the want was a 3/4 ton pickup in lieu of something smaller. And you
Yeah.
asked for us to look at something smaller.
If we need to look at the equipment that was purchased prior year and see, does that cover the needs? Or are we looking for just simply transportation of individuals?
No, we're not looking for transportation for
'Cause
individuals.
That's what
We
was
are
not
looking for
spelled out.
transportation for individual positions to do their job.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's what those requests for. They don't drive these vehicles home, not those that are requested.
No, but okay, I'll still stand by my statement.
But I'll just ask him to be more specific. I work on specificity. If you saw something in there that was a
Those are the
want.
main three right there. So.
Okay, so
That's-
the lawnmower, let me say that, I mean, we're in the budget, is required because
It's-
we have additional public work or park maintenance crew members coming
true.
on.
Yes.
And they
But-
need that equipment.
So 7.99% is going to generate you, what'd you say? How much?
$316,000.
Okay. So if we don't have $316,000, we're going to go in the red with the current budget.
No, the current budget is fine without the 7.9.
Okay.
Now, what I was saying that we have within the next 6 years, $1.2 million worth of fire equipment apparatus that will need to be replaced.
And I
We
spoke to Kurt
have
Mays about the age of some of the
additional
equipment also.
Public Works items that may need, they're not all identified right now. But believe me, there will be things to come that you or I don't know about.
Absolutely. I think we saw that come up this last year.
And so the additional ask of $316,000 is to build our reserve to address those things that are unknown today that we do know that are coming. That's what that ask is for.
That's
No,
fine.
without the 316,000, we're in the black. We're good. It's a break even. So,
But let me ask, Mayor, if we don't do that 316,000, we don't do it over the period of years going up there, then all of a sudden here in 6 years, when we do get faced with something like that, we're going to be automatically faced with way more than a 7.99% increase and have to take it to a budget.
that's true.
So again, I think what we're trying to do and what the mayor was trying to do, in my opinion, is actually let's start building it now so that we don't have to go to
Small steps.
a large increase here in 5 to 6 years.
I hear you. I agree.
All
I'm
right.
looking at this budget year.
Very good. Any more discussion?
The fact that he brought up the trucks, and this is online, can you state that how old those trucks are that we are replacing? Because I think one is like almost 20 years old.
One's over 12 years old, and the other one is, well, they're both
18 or
similar
19,
age.
yeah. And so they need to be replaced. So I didn't want the citizens to think that we're just out there buying new equipment that doesn't need to be replaced, but they do need to be replaced. And then once again, reiterating the additional 314,000 that we can accrue to set aside for these expenses that are going to be happening in the future that we know are coming. And the last 2 years, we have just been playing catch up, trying to pay for all the equipment and things that we need with the population growth. So I'm in favor of reserving money now instead of having to borrow it later at a higher interest rate.
Is there any more discussion? And I'll call for the vote. So there was a motion and a second. Call for the vote. All in favor? 4-4. All opposed? One opposed. Motion carries. Thank you, council. Executive session, we have no need for executive session. Item 4 is mute. Item 5, adjourn. May I have a motion?
Mayor Holsey, I move to adjourn.
Motion is made to adjourn. Is there a second?
I second that.
There is a second. All in favor? It's unanimous. Council, thank you all very much. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.